All right. Well, I've been told we can go, so let's get started. So thanks for attending. I'm actually really excited to be here. This is the first in-person presentation I've done at a conference in, I think, about 2.5 years now. So I'm going to ask one thing from everybody for the next hour or 45 minutes. That's just a little bit of patience. I've built some really bad habits in the last 2.5 years doing a lot of like virtual presentations. So I'm realizing that what I'm used to and what in-person presentations are like might be a bit different. So we're going to be good. So thank you for attending B-Sides Calgary. Thanks for attending this presentation. I'm going to assume if you're here, you're probably stressed out. Just a show of hands, who's stressed out? Just everyone put your hands up, okay? If you're not some degree of stressed out, you're probably stressed out. So a couple years ago, back in 2018, I hit sort of a peak when it came to stress and mental health issues. I started seeing a therapist, and I spent 2 years talking to her. And at B-Sides Calgary 2020, I actually did a presentation on my mental health issues, what I learned talking to therapy. And since then, I've had almost nothing but good responses and good reactions from the community for that. So I was constantly encouraged to continue to speak about that, continue to bring it up, continue to talk about it. So it's been 2 years since I've done that. COVID has since kind of happened. We've all got used to virtual environments, and a lot of different things have happened with my mental health since that conversation. So what I want to talk about today is just kind of maybe update the community and talk a little bit about what I've learned, what I've gone through, and hopefully it can help everybody else. So really quick, I'm not going to go through all of these. You can read them there. If you know who I am, cool. If you don't, my name is MichaelSpaling. I lead the internal information security team at the University of Alberta. So the U of A is one of the top 5 universities in Canada. Officially, we're top 150 in the world, but we tend to straddle the top 100 based on what ranking system you're using. In terms of scale, so the U of A, we measure our budgets by single-digit billions. We measure user counts in the hundreds of thousands. We measure devices in the mid to high tens of thousands. So it's a relatively larger institution. I like working there. It's post-secondary. And as you can see from a lot of what I'm generally involved in, I focus a lot on the post-secondary industry when it comes to cybersecurity. So that's something that we're going to bring up later on in the presentation. But full-time career job, I lead the U of A's information security team. I'm also an instructor at the U of A, so I teach one of their advanced network security courses and one of the MINT programs. That's a master's program. I'm also a research supervisor in that same program. So as a requirement to graduate, the students have to do sort of a 6 to 9 month research project that involves seeking out a subject matter expert in their area to supervise them through their research. So I'm actually doing that right now for one of our students. And the last thing that I do is I co-chair one and participate on a number of just post-secondary committees tied to cybersecurity curriculum in their courses. So I've spent a lot of time focusing a lot of my efforts on post-secondary as it relates to cybersecurity. So a little bit of a background, and we're going to look at 3 things today. So I'm used to moving around like this. I'm not used to standing just behind a podium talking to a microphone. So if I'm naturally doing this and coming back, I'm sorry. We're going to look at 3 things. So I said I've had almost universally positive responses when I talk about mental health. And that's definitely been true for, I would say, the cybersecurity community. But as I engage other people, and especially in the last 2 years, I've had some negative interactions. And I wanted to speak a little bit about those. So that's what we're going to talk about at the first part. The other thing that I've learned, and this has really kind of built out my stress a lot in the last couple of years, is expectations versus reality. There is a lot of, just online communities. Reddit's got a bunch where, they show something that you think you're getting, and then the next pictures that you actually get, and they're not related. It's more comical than anything else. So I've learned a little bit about that with the cybersecurity industry. Oftentimes we have expectations of certain things, and then reality sets in, and you realize that they're not the same. So I want to talk about that. But the last thing, what can we do to help? That's something that I want to talk about. I've learned that there's a lot of stuff out there on mental health now, which is great. There's very little actually tied to cybersecurity, which is kind of sad. And the stuff that is out there is, frankly, it's mostly just statistics. It's like, did you know that 98% of SOC analysts burn out in 6 months? Like, yeah, I don't know if that's the actual stat. I made it up, but it's probably accurate. So I want to actually talk about what can we do about it, because that's where a lot of the stuff I've learned with mental health and cybersecurity kind of falls apart. Is everyone's stressed, everyone's anxious, but what can we do about it? I'll share with you some of the tips that I've learned. And the last thing, normalizing the conversation. So the key word here is conversation. So this isn't meant to be, a talk at you thing where you go, hey, that was a cool presentation, and you leave, or you go, that presentation sucked, whatever, and you leave. The idea is to spawn this conversation up with people. One of the nicest things, coolest things that's happened since I started talking about this publicly is I've had actually a lot of people, I'm not going to out them or anything, come to me privately and say, Michael, thank you. Thank you for talking about this, because I can relate to everything you were saying. And the commonality across those types of people is that they're all different. I've had every age group, every gender, every race, everything, every employee. I've had CISOs, I've had people who just got started say, Michael, I could relate, maybe not to everything I talked about, but to a lot of those different portions. So this talk is universally applicable to people. And to the people who are out there talking about this, kudos to you, thank you. I was actually asked to speak at Bow Valley College virtually a couple months ago for an event that Bow Valley was hosting for their IT staff. So James invited me to speak there, and we talked publicly about some of our experiences, and that was great. I think that helped. So that was awesome. Last piece of intro tech here, very important. One, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist, I don't play them on TV. So I'm not licensed, certified in any way to tell you what's wrong with your brain. My therapist can tell me that. So this is not, advice. It's not medical advice. Don't take what I'm saying as medical advice. Number two, these are my thoughts and observations, okay? The reason I have my in there is you are welcome to disagree. In fact, go right ahead. You can say, well, that's stupid. I don't agree with that. I never experienced this. Totally fine. These are just my observations, okay? And number three, your mileage may vary. So working for the University of Alberta, and in the role that I am, I'm blessed to have access to certain types of benefits. I have a lot of leeway, I'll say, with perhaps how I do my job and how we do security. But I realize that may not translate to some of the other organizations out there. So let's get going. It's all in your head, Michael. Out of curiosity, has anybody ever said that to you? You bring up a problem to them and they just go, it's in your head. And you don't really feel good when somebody says that, right? I've had that said to me a few times, and it comes out, it's very dismissive, it's very, very passive. Obviously, I'm not going to out the people who've said that to me, but I've had great conversations with people who have said, yeah, this is awesome, let's talk about this more. But I've also had people who have told me they don't get stressed. So when I asked earlier, who's stressed right now, and people didn't put up your hand. Well, one of the great equalizers of being a human being is that we all get stressed. We all get anxious, right? Death, taxes, and stress is really what should be those equalizers. And I've met people who claim they don't get stressed. I've met people who claim they don't get anxious. How many of you have heard of imposter syndrome? Just, how many of you have imposter syndrome? You can put it on. See, but the funny thing, like I see people here who are literally chairs of boards just put their hands up saying, I have imposter syndrome, and crazy, but it's a thing. I had someone tell me imposter syndrome's not real. Someone who had never even heard of it, when I was explaining what it was, they said, no, Michael, that's not even a thing. And I was like, but of course it's a thing. There's literally books on this stuff. There's research in that area. You can't just tell me it's not a thing. So I'm not going to get into those discussions, but that's some of the barriers that I've hit in the last couple of years, is even people not realizing that things like imposter syndrome are real. So I expected to go into this conversation saying, oh yeah, this will be easy. And then, no, you have to actually convince them first that it's a real thing. Never mind trying to get support for it. I was actually accused of being selfish in the last year. I bailed on a birthday party last minute. And I was called selfish because I didn't consider the thoughts of the person whose birthday it was. And I didn't consider the thoughts of this and this and that. And I understand, I get that. And I can see why they say that, but I had gotten to a point in my head where I couldn't do it. I was so stressed, I was so anxious, I just could not go to that birthday party anymore, and I had to take time for myself. So when somebody says to me now, Michael, oh, it's all in your head, I usually have two responses to that. Is first off, find the common ground. I agree with them. Yeah, you're right. It is all in my head. It really is. Some of it may manifest as physical symptoms, but that's the problem. It's all in my head. But number two, that doesn't make it any less real. Just because it's just in your head and maybe it's difficult to measure, it's difficult to describe, it doesn't make it any less real. So, I'm just reading my notes here. So I've made a point in time decision, if I go back to that birthday party example, right, is I had to be not selfish, but self-care. It's one of the key things my therapist has taught me, is that at the end of the day, when you're dealing with mental health issues, making decisions that are for you, yourself, and your best interests. Some people might think they're selfish, but at the end of the day, it's all about self-care, right? You do have to look after yourself and your mental health first. And I'm terrible at that, right? I'm usually trying to put other people's first. I'm trying to, schedule stuff, coordinate stuff, and then 10 minutes before the event, I'm sitting here going, oh, why did I agree to this? Not this, by the way. This was great. I love doing this. But I'll just clarify that, right? But I'm just going to say, if you happen to be someone who has said, oh, mental health's not real, or let's, imposter syndrome's not real. Just if someone ever comes to you and says, I'm having some mental health problems, just please listen to them. Okay, take it seriously and listen to them and see what they have to say. So again, it's all about supporting them. So it's all in your head, Michael. Like, I've had that said to me, but you're right, it is. However, that's the problem, and it doesn't make it any less real. So let's work together to solve it. The other one, expectations versus reality. This is where we need a little more into the cybersecurity side of the house. So I explained what this means earlier. If you don't know, again, it's just, my favorite examples are, people like they go to Amazon and they buy something and they think that it's going to be this like super cool, like 6 foot tall Pokemon stuffy, and then it shows up and it's, like maybe a couple inches. And it's like, what's going on? Another really interesting one, but Instagram reality, it's literally a subreddit out there where it's like, you see selfies of people, what they post on Instagram, and then you see selfies of people they post on real life. Completely different, right? But that's actually a fascinating thing to me because that's not real. Right? That's not real, and I can't stress that enough. Online does not equal the reality of it. But a fun thing about cybersecurity I've learned is that so much of what we do is online, right? Maybe, it's 2 a.m. in the morning and you're trying to, get a firewall to reboot or something. Maybe that's physical. But the rest of it, it's almost an entirely virtual domain now for us. So we spend a lot of our time online. And because so much stuff online is easy to misrepresent, I've learned for me, it started to cause me some stress over the years as to, is what I'm dealing with online, is this actually the reality of what's going on or is it not? So I've tried to become a little self-aware with what I'm learning, what I'm seeing online, and comparing that to what I consider to be true in reality. So I want to just go through a few examples of this. I'm going to take a quick drink real quick. But how many of you are involved in incident response, like security incident response? How many of you who aren't, how many of you want to be? You think it's pretty cool? How many of you saw these slides and you go, yes, I want to get into it now? Some of these are amazing. Like my favorite, like this. Like you can't read it, it says hacking detected. Like that makes things just sound super cool, right? Here's a guy in the bottom right there, incident response. He's got his fancy futuristic iPad thing. He's just pushing the lock button and we solve their problems. What else do we got here? There's lots of lock buttons, cyber attack, security breach, okay? So I just went to Google and I just searched for literally security incident response. And I cherry picked all the really fun, it's a lot of like graphs and flowcharts, no one cares. I picked the cool stuff because that's what they want you to see, right? When you go to Google and you search security incident response, this is the type of stuff it shows you. It makes it look really cool and really sexy and really awesome and really neat. You wanna know what security incident response actually looks like? That. Real, actual picture. I had this talk in my head for the better part of like 6-7 months, and I submitted to B-Sides Calgary, got accepted. That's me, not me. That's me taking a picture. This is actually me. This is real. That is me doing security incident response at 9:30 p.m. in my in-laws' basement. They live 2 hours south of here. I'm from Edmonton, by the way. They live like Lethbridge. In their laundry room / basement. Because we were dealing with a pretty big breach that we had just learned about that morning. I was on vacation, by the way, and I get a text from one of the guys on my team saying, hey, I think we have a problem. And that's generally a daily occurrence in my job. But the question becomes, is this like a hey, FYI, we have a problem, I'm just keeping you in the loop and we'll deal with it? Is this I was at the lake with my wife and my kids and sister-in-laws and their kids. Is this a come back to shore problem, or is this a cut your vacation short and come back to Edmonton? So spoiler alert, it was number 2. It was come back to shore and get on this call right away. We realized what was going on. We realized that we had to bring in some external groups and we had to coordinate all of that. So given everyone's schedules, 9:30 p.m. at night, my kids are in bed, my wife's upstairs, the in-laws are upstairs. This is me at 9:30 doing incident response. This is what it looks like. And bonus, if you can't tell, by the way, that's not a chair. That's a foldable step ladder. Okay, I couldn't even find a chair. So this is the reality of incident response. Another fun one. I don't know if you can read that. So there's a really funny website out there. It's called viralpostgenerator.com. It asks you 2 questions. It says, what did you accomplish and what's your inspirational message? And then there's a cringe slider, and you can slide between low level of cringe and high level of cringe and anywhere in between. You hit generate and it will generate you a sort of Lincoln-esque post. And it's completely fake, but it's hilarious. So all I put in here was like, cybersecurity. I passed a cybersecurity exam, and what's your inspiration? Do what you set your mind to. So this is made up, but I can see people laughing at this. How many of you can relate to seeing these types of posts in your feed? Basically, everyone's just kind of going, How many of you post this stuff? Yeah, everyone just went, okay, I'll trust. So I want to talk about this one for a second, because I'm going to be honest with you. These posts, they make me feel bad about myself, which is really weird because people tell me, I'm generally accomplished, and okay, if you want to say that, fine. But at the same time, I see something like this and I don't feel very good. I have a lot of security certifications. They weren't easy to get. One of the things that I learn about this is it gets my brain going in this spiral as I read this, and I'm like, wow, like this is super inspirational. This is the easiest thing on the planet. Look at how cool this post is. Look at how easy, look at how happy they are to have gone through the certification process. Who's ever been happy to go through the certification process, right? You're happy when you get it, but the amount of stress and anxiety you deal with. And I noticed that I was just time out, super happy there's a lot of students here today. That's fantastic. Even 6-7 years ago, frankly, we never really got students coming to security conferences. So besides Calgary, besides Edmonton, the other ones that exist out there, hearing that, there's 80 something students, 100 students, that is amazing to hear that there's students here, because it also means that a lot of the stress stuff translates to what a lot of the students are going through, particularly in cybersecurity exams. So when I look at this, I start asking myself, like, why is this person making it sound so easy, right? Why is it not easy for me? Why is everyone else liking it? Why does it have 10 million likes on it? It's fake, but you get the picture, right? Is it easy for them? Wow, I suck, right? I don't have it this easy at all. I'm doing something wrong, right? And this is just like one post, okay? So this is the expectation if you've never gotten into the industry and start looking at security certs and it's like, oh, this should be simple, right? But what is the actual reality of doing this type of stuff? It's a lot of this, right? No one ever talks about how much they had to study or how long they had to study. Maybe they whine about it. But this is the reality, right? So this is me mostly just Googling, like stressed out, going, So there's, oh no, I talked about that already. Right, so understand that a lot of what's online is strongly embellished. And I'm going to talk a little bit later about things that have helped me learn about this. But if you feel like this, I'll strongly encourage you to go seek help. One of the biggest things I've learned with my therapist over the years is I asked her a few times, I was like, so when are we done? Like, when are you going to give me the bill of clean health? And, Mike, to me, I'm here, right? We've reached the point where, you've made a lot of progress in the last couple of years, but think of it this way as just maybe it's an oil change for your mind. It's preventative maintenance for your brain at this point. So you don't have to hit a breaking point, right? You just basically have to decide, hey, I need a little help. You reach out to someone, we'll get to that, and you can help. The last one I want to bring up, speaking of reaching out and getting help, this is oftentimes the expectation of what people have when they say, I'm going to therapy, or I want therapy, or I need therapy, right? From my experience, there is a degree of truth to this. I've never had to lay on a couch like you usually see. That's kind of funny. But group therapy with other people talking about this stuff has helped a lot immensely. That one on the bottom right, I picture me being in that person talking to my therapist because we've moved to virtual. But the expectation when we talk to therapy is the one on the left there is kind of, that's a little, I'd say, I don't know, people do that. But this one is a little more real for me. Right? When people say, I want therapy and I want to talk to somebody, this is often what they're looking for. They're looking for maybe a small group, or more importantly, one-on-one with a professional therapist or psychologist or whatever to help. Before I go any further, I wasn't sure if I should put this next slide in because I'm probably going to offend a few people. Are there any HR staff here? No. Okay, that makes this a lot easier. What's the actual reality of a lot of organizations when it comes to, we promote mental health? They do 2 things, okay? They give you a lunchtime webinar on the topic that's mostly useless and you don't even get paid for it, or they give you pizza. We all love pizza. Like, I love pizza, and if pizza could solve my mental health problems, I would be standing here. I'd have pizza with me everywhere. It's not that simple. So I'm going to plead to you guys. I lead a team of 5 security analysts, and as much as I'm sure they love pizza, if my approach to helping them with their mental health problems was, all right, guys, Pizza Friday 2 months from now, I don't think I'm going to get much anywhere. So this is a plea to the people who are trying to help. And that's one thing I want to make clear. I'm not, dunking on anyone for trying, great, but understand it's a start. Okay. So if you're working for an organization or you're responsible for an organization for doing mental health awareness stuff, please understand that, a once a month Friday pizza party, I'm almost 37. I have adult money. I can buy pizza whenever I want. Okay, I'm just going to throw that out there. Just know the difference between buying pizza to help your staff versus understanding what they're actually going through and what some of those works are there. I have attended some good lunchtime webinars on the topic, but they generally tend to summarize what's taken me 4 years to kind of learn. So I would encourage anybody, if you are doing the lunchtime webinars, don't consider the job done. Okay. Don't just say, yeah, we support mental health. We did a webinar 3 months ago. Why is everybody all stressed out still? Like, come to the webinar next time. Continue going. I am going to plug something really quick. I don't know if you can see that, but working for the university, this is actually how I got my start with doing mental health. Now, I can't speak for anybody else's benefits program, but one thing that university does provide to staff is it's called the Employee Family Assistance Program. So it's done through a third party, through Home and Health. They just had a data breach. I was part of it. But that's kind of common now, right? Nobody even laughs. It's just like, oh yeah, those things, they happen. But it's done through that. And it's amazing. This is where I got my start. It's literally you call them and they say, yeah, you need a therapist. Cool. Here's their availability. It was relatively short. They work around your schedule. And had I not ever made that call like 4 years ago, I probably wouldn't be doing this conversation right now. So these things are great. If you have any say in your organization's benefits plan, or you want to maybe do things better, I would strongly, strongly recommend talk to your human resources department, talk to whoever's involved in benefits, ask them, what do we have for mental health benefits and support? Because it turns out we've had this I've been at U of A for 12 years, and we've had it, I think, like the whole time. And I didn't even know that. So these types of things where your employer can actually have signed agreements and contracts with professional services. And it's personal. So that says it helps you manage anxiety, stress, depression, addiction, mental health, low self-esteem, relationship stuff. If you're having marriage issues, family issues, difficulty with kids, workplace issues, you hate Bob beside you, you can talk to people about this stuff. That's one of the biggest things that's helped. So this is the part of the presentation I really want to get to, just being mindful of time. I'm sure people probably hear because this is what they want to hear, tips that have helped, and hopefully it helps them. So I'm going to restate what I said earlier. This has helped me, okay? This may not necessarily help you. You can try it. There might be some stuff in here where you might actually go, Michael, you're crazy. That's probably the second slide coming up. But number one, curate your social media. So in this context, social media curation, what they usually mean by that, it's the people who run the social media accounts for organizations or whatever, and they're digging through all the digital wasteland out there, finding the things that they believe that their followers want to see. Okay, that's curation. But you can do the same. I don't want to mention the name of the platform, so I'll just say that well, actually, no, it's coming up in the next slides. I guess I have to. So LinkedIn is a platform. I don't have social media. I'm going to start with that. I don't have Twitter. I don't have Instagram. I don't have Facebook. I don't have any of that stuff. Someone in the audience just looked at their friends and went, what? Yeah, I know. I don't have any of it. Don't worry. I used to have Facebook 10 years ago. I did lie. I have an Instagram account, but no one follows me. I've never posted anything. The only reason I have that is because a lot of the sites like Reddit, they link to Instagram, and now after 3 unlogged in views, now Instagram's you have to log in to continue. So all right, whatever. So I have that, but I don't count that. So the only real social media, if you want to call it that, is I use LinkedIn, and that's been crazy. I can't fathom the people who spend all day on Instagram and Twitter. I'm a nutcase up here, and I don't even have that stuff, so I can't imagine what people are going through with it. But one of the things that I've learned is with some of these social media platforms, they keep showing me stuff I don't want to see. And what I've started doing now is I started asking myself, why am I seeing this? And do I want to see this? And if the answer is no, I found a really simple way of doing it. And that's just nuking connections. So as everybody pulls out their phone and now goes, am I still connected to Michael? Yeah, sorry. But this has actually been incredibly helpful. This is the opposite of what you generally hear out there, right? Build your social media following, build your brand, get your followers, do the whole big caboodle. I've never been a fan of that. I much prefer real world interactions like this. People, I saw a fascinating post recently where someone was talking about how they just hit 10,000 followers on LinkedIn. And I'm like, cool. I just nuked mine in half. So I was much more interested in things like quantity versus quantity, or quality over quantity. And I learned that the people that I'm currently connected to, I know who they are. So I will be honest. If you just pulled up your LinkedIn and you said, Michael's not connected to me anymore, it's because I didn't recognize your name. Okay, that's how I went through my list. I looked at it over a couple of weeks and just said, "Who is this? No, I don't know you. I don't know you. I don't know you." And I learned that was one of the major contributors to me just not feeling very well about myself. Looking at LinkedIn was seeing all these accomplishments from people that I don't know, that I have no personal investment in, and what's left on there. 95% of them, at least I know who they are, right? And it's people that I used to work with, people I currently work with. It's people that I've engaged with professionally over the years, it's people I've met. So if you want to add me on LinkedIn, you can, yes, I guess. That's always how I end this presentation. You add me on LinkedIn and you might be a statistic a few years later. But the other thing that I did is I also added stuff that I'm personally interested in. I like Lego. If you've been on a virtual call with me the last 2.5 years, you've seen what's behind me. I like Lego. So I added Lego. I've never followed Lego on LinkedIn really. And now I did. I kind of occasionally enjoy WWE, AEW. I started following them on LinkedIn, right? Because I've always treated LinkedIn as like a professional cybersecurity thing, and it's flooded with cybersecurity stuff, and we have a very negative industry. So it's fun to just kind of see the occasional Lego post in there, or seeing some dude get suplexed off a rope while you're, it's really sweet. So that's the first thing that I would talk about is I'm not going to encourage you to do this, but it has helped me. Is instead of chasing connections, I've been curating connections and finding the stuff that actually helps. Find your groove. So if anybody has ever said to me, and I'm talking more to the students, but this still helps. I talk to a lot of students who say, Michael, I was given your information. Can you please tell me, how can I get a job in cybersecurity? So I've said this so many times, I'm going to say it again. Okay, saying I work in security is like cybersecurity is exactly like that. So one of the huge things that stressed me out over the years was trying to stay on top of everything, and that's just become impossible. So I've now decided I'm going to pay attention to enterprise cybersecurity, like at that scale, because that's what I work in, and the exploit development side of the scene because I really like that stuff. That because I kind of want to learn about it, but I don't know anything about ICS security. I may not know the first thing about perhaps IoT security. I'm super, super happy that other people on my team manage governance and audit and compliance stuff, because that's just not my role. Roseanne, Shelley, Gordy, I know you guys are watching this. Shout out to you guys. I'm so happy that they're on our team because we work so well together, because those are their interests and their passions. And my teams, they're a little different. So that's my other thing, is find your groove. Okay, it's okay not to know everything. If you're interested in cybersecurity or you're in cybersecurity, I had someone come up to me actually in the past, and they were like, "Hey, what are we doing about this thing, the cybersecurity thing?" And I was like, "This is the first I've heard of it." And they were like, "You haven't heard of this yet?" I was like, "No." And they're like, "Oh, aren't you the security lead?" Yeah. So have you not heard of this yet? I was like, "Do you have any freaking idea how big the industry is? Like, I can't know about everything." But that's part of the strategy, is I actually rely on you to tell me about this. So thank you. And now we'll start looking at it, right? There's 9 people in the CISO portfolio that I work out of. Odds are one of us has at least seen it, and we can start talking about it. But it's okay. Right? It's okay to find your groove. A few others. Ask yourself, who increases my stress and who reduces my stress? So I'm sure right now, every single one of you just pictured that person, right? They increase your stress. Oh, man. But you probably also have those people that decrease your stress. The opposite. They're the people you can give anything you want to, and they're great, right? They're going to handle it. They'll do a good job. You don't worry about it. So this is something I wish I learned years ago. This is like something I've learned in the last maybe 18 months is this is me speaking more as Michael, the security manager, more than anything else, of managing people, is knowing who increases my stress and knowing who decreases my stress. And that's not like my team specifically. It's just knowing the people around me. I work in a gigantic organization of a lot of people, and there are people that frankly I'm going to ignore them. When I see them walking down the hallway, I pull out my phone and I go, "Oh," and just they're massive stress increasers, right? Why they're increasing your stress, that could be your own personal reason. But I've just learned that that the people that send you a chat message at 3:55 p.m. on a Friday because they forgot that a firewall is a thing and tomorroow's a giant change that they've been working on for 2 months and it suddenly isn't working, Oh my gosh. So identify these people. Ask yourself, are you increasing my stress or reducing my stress? It helps immensely. Now, the catch is you might not, your mileage may vary, and my job, there are people I can't ignore, even though they're huge stress increasers. I can't ignore them. So you have to learn to deal with it. But if you do identify the people that you can just kind of ignore because they increase your stress and there's no obligation to engage them, just don't. I'll be honest. But the other thing I'm going to say, and this is to the people, I'm sure many of you probably report to somebody. I've also learned the same thing about myself. So one of the biggest things that I've learned is my role as a stress reducer for the people that I report to. So I report to our CISO, he reports to our CIO. There's a whole executive layer there. My job as a cybersecurity lead at the University of Alberta, one of my jobs, I should say, is reducing their stress, because I could not imagine what it would be like to be in one of those types of positions, having a security team that is increasing your stress every single day. Now, the nature of our job, perhaps it does increase the stress. But when someone explained that to me, just like light bulbs went off, and I was like, oh, my role is to maybe I can increase the stress. My role is to reduce the stress of the people that I report through as well, so that they can go worry about all the other stuff. And then me and my team, we can clean up all the stuff and only bring to them what really needs to be brought to them. So when somebody says, Michael, I need you to deal with something, we deal with it. And that starts building trust. So ask yourself, who's increasing your stress and who's reducing your stress? A couple other ones. This is super recent. In fact, this is like, I had this stuff. I had this slide say stop owning stuff up until Friday afternoon of last week. We had a big departmental meeting, and our CIO, this conversation came up. It was super timely in our IT department monthly town hall. Is this conversation of owning stuff came up, and it was our CIO who had actually used this language. So Mike, his name's also Mike. I'll credit him for this. Here's what I'm not saying, okay? I'm not telling you to stop owning stuff, because we have to own stuff, right? And in this context, when I say own stuff, I mean see things through to completion. There's a lot of people that just want to chuck it over the fence and run away from it. Know what you can own. When I started at the U of A like 12 years ago, in order to try and be cool and awesome and want people to like me, I just owned everything, whether I knew how to or not. I was like, yeah, I'll own that. And, you drop it all and it's bad. I would tell you, though, over the years, I think that strategy did work to some degree. People have told me that, Michael, you're very reliable. We can give you stuff and you get it done. You own the situation. But oftentimes that's said about stuff that's not cybersecurity. Not that I don't own that, but it's because I branch outside of that and own things that I shouldn't. I've stopped doing that because I can't do that anymore. Instead, try redirecting. So what that means is when someone says to you, hey, Michael, why does this application work this way? Part of me would be like interested. Yeah, that's a cool problem. Nothing to do with cybersecurity, but just something up here goes, I want to know that too. And yeah, I'll own that and I'll find out. And let's figure that out. I can't do that anymore. Right now, what I'll do is I'll just be like, go talk to so-and-so. Go talk to this person. Maybe I might not be able to help you directly, but I can at the very least tell you which team to talk to or who to engage. And we've had a lot of change administratively and academically at the university in the last couple of years. So there are a lot of people who may not necessarily know who to talk to about stuff, but because I've been there for 12 years, I still have a lot of historical knowledge about the place. So that's my other piece of advice here is, try redirecting. The other key thing that I'm going to tell you guys, I don't know how many of my coworkers are watching this right now, so they're going to learn something here. But I've also learned to stop speaking when there's a major incident if it's not cybersecurity related. When I've had situations where there's like a cyber, not a cybersecurity issue, something's going on, maybe it's a networking thing or something. My team has roots in our networking team. We work with them regularly. A lot of the security stuff that we do is purely networking focused. And I've learned over the years that if there's things are going on in our incident group chat and I speak up and I say something like, oh, well, maybe it's A or B, everyone just kind of stops. And they're like, oh, yeah, well, Michael's dealing with it now. I'm not dealing with it. It was just a suggestion. But people are like, oh, yeah, Michael's going to own that. Okay, yeah, cool. And then like 3 hours later, someone will be like, so was it A or B? And I was like, I don't know. It was just a suggestion. Why do you think I'm doing this? So redirect, right? But also be careful. I've got a couple more and then we're mostly done. So how many of you have a to-do list? Oh, I saw a couple head shakes. Okay. So I generally have to-do lists, but this is what I really want to ask. How many of you have a stop doing list? Yeah, a couple. Okay, this is one of the coolest things I've ever learned, and this has helped me crazy. I'm going to show you my actual real stop doing list. Okay, it's not huge, but this is it. Yes, it starts with McDonald's. There's Chinese food in here, but this is my actual stop doing list. Now we can laugh about this for a few minutes, but I want to talk seriously about this. So you'll notice each item is 2 sentences, one and then an indent below it. So when I started making a stop doing list, I only had that first sentence there. And I would often make them point in time, and then I wouldn't remember why I made this. So I'd be sitting at a McDonald's drive-thru at 9:30 at night, waiting for, like a Big Mac. I'd get home, I'd take a bite, and I'd be like, oh, this tastes disgusting. It's like 600 calories. I'm trying to lose weight. Why am I doing this? And I eventually clued in, oh, wait a minute. Not only should I just, write what I need to stop doing, but I need to remind myself, so future Michael can thank current Michael what I'm feeling right now. So the first 2, yeah, that's just a personal thing. You can make fun of me later for that one. But there's a couple things on here that I really, really wanted to point out because I feel that they're related to social media. They're related to a lot of my stress, right? Stop worrying about things that people have not said or negative scenarios that have not happened. How many of you get into fights with people in the shower in your head? Okay, good. That wasn't as weird as I thought. People put their hands up. All right. How many of you just go through your head? My therapist calls it, intrusive thoughts. Okay, so that's the word, right? Intrusive thoughts. I don't have them nearly as much as I used to, but oh boy, did I ever. That's a summary of that, right? And that's that things will generally work out for the better. The next one, right? Stop feeling bad if people don't acknowledge your social media posts. Okay, how many of you make a post on like LinkedIn or Instagram or something? You go away for an hour and you come back and you're like, I wonder how many people have liked it. Yeah, come on, you all do that. Put your hands up. I know you do, right? How many of you, and it builds that sort of thing that like, wow, this is cool and I'm important. But I've learned over time that when I meet people, I've never had a situation where somebody, was like, yeah, Michael, you suck because of your social media post from yesterday. Like I've never really had that. They appreciate who I am in real life. So I realized that as long as I continue to engage people in real life, I don't have to worry about what's going on in social media land. I do make the occasional post, and then I still find myself guilty about, coming back an hour later, I'm looking. But it's just a reminder to myself. It's mostly that second one, right? It's a reminder to myself that, people, they do appreciate who you are in real life. That's the one about the kids is older. That was, I have 3 kids. They're 10, 8, and 7, and we're about to buy a dog. So things are going to get bonkers more so than they usually are. But when they were really little, I was struggling immensely with balancing my full-time job, my obligation to my students, being a husband to my wife, father to my kids when they were little. So this is just a passive reminder. But some of the stuff in here, sugar foods, we can ignore that one. Stop worrying if people don't get back to you quickly. Yeah. That's one of the fun challenges too, is that there's a difference between being available and being accessible, right? We're generally probably all accessible, but how many of you have you've messaged somebody and 30 minutes later, they haven't got back to you yet. And you start going like, what did I do wrong? Like, do they hate me? Like, is that person upset with me now? And then it's fun. I'm seeing people go, yes, okay, I'm not crazy. But then, eventually they get back to you and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Like my phone was charging, or I don't know, some other reason, right? But they either forgot, they're busy, or they always apologize, right? So that's my reminder too, is I have to remind myself of this stuff, right? Stop worrying because they haven't got back to you right away. It's okay. And then the last one, I'm going to spend a couple minutes on this one because this is probably the most important. How many people, it says, stop worrying about other people's thoughts on your comments. They are worried about themselves and how they responded. So how many of you have spoken up in a meeting and you immediately regretted it? Okay, right? And it ruins your day, right? Like you spend the rest of the day going, should I have said that? I probably shouldn't have said that. Well, they probably think I'm so stupid right now. Oh gosh, I should have said this instead. Okay, so here's the deal. If you're doing that, everyone look around. Hopefully you did, and you saw everyone's doing that about themselves, right? I've talked to people who have said, they're like, Michael, I'm glad that you spoke up because I didn't spoke up, and I'm punching myself in the head because I didn't speak up when I should have spoke up. So this was one of the biggest things that I realized was everybody is worrying about themselves. And, it goes back to the selfish self-care thing, but that's okay, right? So I had a bit of a disagreement with a coworker this week in a talk about, how do you start with why? Do you start with what in a presentation? And we ended up chatting about it behind the scenes. But at the same time, I'm reminding myself like, wow, that person probably thinks that I'm a dick. And they're probably worried too about how they responded. So just remember this one, okay? When you're worrying about yourself and you're worrying about maybe I shouldn't have said anything or anything like that, that's kind of what everybody's thinking. So just remember about that. No one thinks you're stupid because you spoke up. Well, maybe they do, but they shouldn't. You're not stupid. You're awesome. So last slide, and then we're done. Make time for yourself and the people you care about. For real, actually do this. I intentionally put that on there. It is so easy to see a slide like this and feel, woohoo, awesome. Make time for yourself and the people you care about. I work with a lot of people in cybersecurity. We all work with a lot of people in cybersecurity. Do I care about all of them? Not particularly. Do I like a lot of them? Some of them. But there are people that I love, and people that I will make a note to reach out and say hi to and whatnot. But actually do this. One of the biggest things that I've learned in the last 2.5 years through my therapist is that I'm far more social than I gave myself credit for. It's amazing what happens when you get like confined to a basement because of the COVID, situation, and you don't really interact with a lot of people for a while. I could do a whole other presentation on this, but in interest of time, I won't. But it's fun, the stuff that my therapist and I have been talking about in the last couple months, right? When COVID started, it was all about the survival of a business and the survival of the organization, and can we transition to remote? And the answer to that mostly was, yeah, turns out we can. But now they're starting to see the ramifications of people and humans and what actually happens to groups of people when you don't have that constant social interaction. We had a huge, I'll just say, fun interaction between people in our an anonymous chat system that we have at work for stuff, where somebody had asked, can we move back to hybrid work? And the people who do not want hybrid work, they love working from home, chirped up, and it just kind of became back and forth. And I was sitting there watching this from a distance, just fascinated by it, because there was a lot of really interesting ramifications stuff with that I've been learning from my therapist lately. So naturally, I got involved by just posting links to like Rickrolls, and that's about it. And I wasn't going to get involved in the actual argument. But this is really, really important. Actually pay attention to the people that are important to you. On a strictly personal note, about 2 months ago, I don't know, man, I walked off this cliff and just plummeted into this disconnect. I felt a strong disconnect from everybody around me. And I called my therapist, just kind of out of band. I was like, hey, I know we're not scheduled to talk yet, but I need to talk to you because this isn't going well. And that was one of the best talks I had. Again, it's a whole other conversation. But actually pay attention to the people around you. Pay attention to the people you care about you. Trying to see what else I have on here. Oh, yeah, the other thing is make time for yourself. Okay, make time for yourself. Leisure time is what you want to do, not what you need to do. The last item that I'm gonna leave off is I've noticed for me, and I'm gonna extend this to the cybersecurity industry. How many of you feel like you're always at the beck and call of other people? There's always someone else coming after you, right? You have your stuff to do, but there's always someone who needs assistance. There's always support. There's always a team you have to manage. There's always people above you asking for stuff. You maybe have spouses that need stuff, kids that need stuff. That's my life. Okay, I get so little time to actually do what I want to do. And you know what I want to do? I want to just sit down and play video games for half an hour and just not be distracted, right? And I so rarely get the chance to do that. So do things for yourself. 2 huge things I've been doing, and this is the part where maybe you're like, Michael, you're crazy. I've been getting up at 6 a.m. For the last 3 weeks now. It's because my wife gets up at 6 a.m. every morning and she exercises. She does her pop sugar fitness thing in the living room. So I've started doing that with her. And because my wife and I, it's a relationship that I obviously very clearly care about. It's an opportunity for us to spend more time together. And while, she's doing the fitness thing, I'm practically dying because I'm so out of shape. But we can spend time together. The kids are still asleep. It's dark outside. It's just the 2 of us, and it's really, really nice. And then I go to work, and I'm usually at the university about 7:15 a.m. Our team stand-ups at 9 a.m. So that gives me, by the time I'm sat down ready to go, it's usually about 90 minutes. It's an hour and a half a day where no one else is really online yet, or no one else is doing anything. It gives me a full 90 minutes every day where I can do what I want to do with my job. And honestly, I spend a lot of it just in our malware environments. I spend on it looking at the malware reports. I do maybe some of the more technical stuff that I want to do, because as soon as 9 a.m. rolls around and all the team, the team show up, I am going to spend the rest of my day on someone else's dime, being there for them. So that's essentially the presentation. References for pictures, more references for stuff. That's it. We are at 12:15. Nailed it, right on time. So any questions, comments? I'm from Edmonton, so I'm going to be leaving at about 3 o'clock tomorrow. But yeah, I'll start here in the corner.
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
Michael, my name is Cecilia, and that particular slide we showed about find out who gives you the strata. Right? What if the entity that gives you threat reduces your stress?
Oh, I never considered that. So I'll tell you the first thing that came to my head. My kids.
Yeah.
So, okay, there you go. So forget the professional discussion. Man, I'm trying to figure out how do I summarize like 3 years of bringing up my kids in therapy in like 30 seconds. I love my kids. Don't worry, they're the greatest people ever. But yeah, the answer that I'll tell you is boundaries. I have had to set hard boundaries with my kids, so they know that when daddy's on a call, they cannot be around me. Now the problem is where my office space is in our basement is also the same space that their gaming computers are in. So yeah, my kids have like expensive gaming computers, so whatever, it's awesome. We play Minecraft together, but that's what they kind of want to do, right? So they know that when daddy's on a call, it means that we can't play Minecraft. So they do the little hovering thing, and they look around, and they'll try to walk up and be all cutesy about it, and daddy, right? But I've had to put my emotions aside for a second, and yeah, I love you guys, but set the boundaries. So we have that now. Same with the bedroom. Oh, that came out wrong. Same with. That's not what I meant. Same with like we all do it. You retreat to your bedroom and lay in your bed. You just pull out your phone and you browse something, right? It's like just get away. But we usually leave the door open. So I've had to tell the kids too, and like my wife does it as well, right? When daddy's just laying on the bed and he's just got the fan on and he's just looking at his phone or something or doing some work, like just don't disturb him. It's okay to be like, daddy, like that's fine, but don't just barge in there with like lightsabers and come jumping on me and get on the bed, get in. So that's what I would say. I'll go with that. I'll just say try to introduce some of those, not barriers, whatever the word that I said earlier is, just when they know when it's time to engage and when it's time not to. I'm not a parenting counselor at all, but that's helped me. So does that help at all? Okay. There was a question in the corner. Yeah. Cam, I think. Yeah. Yes. So if you know me, you know what I'm about to say. If you don't know me, I have a lot of stomach issues. I've learned to deal with them. In fact, stress was one of the biggest like contributors to that. But I did learn that like fast food beef burgers specifically would just wreck me. So I could have like chicken, but not beef. So yeah, that's the clarity there. There's a little personal note. I don't mind going to getting McNuggets at 9:00 at night. Like I don't feel bad about that. But yeah, it's that's specifically for beef burgers. Yeah. Cool. Anything else? Corner, yeah. Hi.
You mentioned the flow you have with your family and get into work and you do the stand-up.
Yep.
Do you have a certain flow that's worked with like at work and then you sort of support your team to have that balance?
Yeah, so I work from the University of Alberta campus. I only actually work from home consistently for like maybe 2 or 3 months into COVID. I've spent the better part of probably about 4 or 5 days a week, 4 of 5 days a week actually working from the office. I can't work from home. I'm not one of those people that just can do it. The Lego it's where I play video games, it's where I relax and unwind, and I hate combining that with my workspace. I have to keep them separate. So that's why I've been working from the office mostly, because when I'm at the office, it's just my work environment. And I know that probably sounds crazy to a lot of people, because when I bring that up, people say that's weird, because a lot of them have learned to just merge their work and their home environment. So for my family, my kids, it's also one of the reasons why I've been hanging out with my wife more in the morning. Yeah, I'm a little tired more than normal, but that's okay. But it gives us that time just to kind of be together. And then I go to work, I do my work thing. We can still chat throughout the day, which is nice. But then when I get home, the other thing for me is that like I can't bounce between things, right? When I switch between tasks, think of it as shifting gears, not flicking a light switch. I have to wind stuff down and then wind stuff up. And that 10-minute commute it takes me to drive to and from my house is where I make that mental switch from Michael, the security lead at the university, to Michael, the husband and father. And yes, things will, I have to, just nature of my job, I have to be available, for what I do, which is where kind of, the boundaries comes into play. But for me, that's how I've learned to separate that is home is home, work is work. And it's incredibly rare that I actually have to like deal with something after hours at work. But I can plan for the stuff that I can plan for, and then I can let my wife know and the kids know. Like this is a fantastic example. The kids knew Daddy was going to be away for a few days, and I mentioned we're getting a dog. It's from a breeder just south of here. We have to give it a few more weeks to grow older, but they were like, "Can you get the dog while you're down there?" Like, no. Sorry, guys. Does that answer the question at all? Okay. Anything else? It is lunchtime, by the way, so the longer you stay in here, the longer the lineup's getting. So, all right, we're good. Thank you.